Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Potato, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. Hi, hello. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well today. I'm just doing a quick little check-in today. We got a little bit of everything to talk about. I mentioned in my video yesterday that I was going to maybe want to talk a little bit about some stuff that Amberlynn brought up in a members-only live stream this week. And I took some notes that I want to maybe discuss just a couple things. We're not going to talk about the whole kit and caboodle, mostly because, like, I don't know, to some extent I do respect that she has it behind a paywall, and like, if people really want access to it, then they should pay for it, this, that, the other. But I don't think that that means that I can't use a few clips from it, or that I can't talk about it, or talk about the things she said. Because if anything, I would think, you know, that would only make people more interested about what is going on in her live streams. But either way, we're going to talk about some of it briefly. And then the other thing that I mentioned yesterday is that I had seen that Beck uploaded a video reacting to Amberlynn's video that was titled My Last Response to Beck. And so I want to talk about that first a little bit. I'm not going to do like an actual reaction, but I did watch it. I did think it was, well, here's what I will say. If anybody's good at doing reactions, it's Beck, not Amberlynn. Like, Beck is actually entertaining. Beck actually provided like helpful insight or new things or new understanding to the things that they were reacting to. It's everything that Amberlynn really tried to be in the video we watched yesterday, where she was reacting to an old video of herself. It's everything that Amberlynn wanted to be, but couldn't. And actually, what's interesting is that the format that Beck did to react to it was actually very similar, where like, they showed a clip from the video and then talked about it a little bit, and then showed another clip and then talked about it. It's interesting that the format was so similar, and that's how a lot of Beck's reaction videos have been. It's fascinating that Amberlynn just coincidentally, maybe it is coincidence, but coincidentally has like a very similar format as Beck when it comes to the ways that they do their reactions on their channel. So anyways, I think there was a lot of like funny responses that Beck had that I think, please go watch their video. A lot of you probably already have already. But I think the thing that I really took from the most, or took the most from Beck's video, is that they talked about, you know, the concept that Amberlynn's video, maybe this is a more helpful way to word it. Amberlynn's video talked a lot about how they didn't view the relationship in the same ways. Like, they each had their own understanding of what was going on. And Beck at one point fully says like, well, of course we didn't look at it the same way, because I was your caretaker and you enjoyed being taken care of.
Yeah, we did view this relationship differently. I was your caretaker and you were enjoying being taken care of without any appreciation for the things that I did. You made me feel like I owed it to you. Everything that I could possibly give and more. I always owed you more.
But that is basically Amberlynn's big argument throughout the video, of like allegedly not understanding at the time the nature of their relationship. And I think it's really easy to get caught up on that, because, you know, even in some cases, I'm willing to say that, like, yeah, when you look back on your relationship, you know, maybe you weren't viewing it the same way that you would view it now and things like that. And like, maybe at the time you didn't know. And like, I could see a world where that is the case. And yet I also still felt like Amberlynn wasn't apologizing, you know, like, and I think that's important. It's going to be important when we talk about some stuff when it comes to the live stream, where Amberlynn does in fact talk about Beck again. But Beck goes on to say in this video, in this response, like, how could you say that, like, you didn't understand what our relationship was like, or that I didn't enjoy doing these things, or this, that, the other, when I fully told you that I didn't enjoy doing those things, and you said I had to do them because it was my job?
It was not news to you, and it's weird for you to say that it was normal for me to be zoning out and disassociating. You knew why I felt that way, but if you didn't, why wouldn't you ask me what was going on, or why was I acting that way? Why would you just continue filming and let it become the normal? The truth is that you did know, because I told you many times that I did not want to be on camera. And your response was that I owed you and that it was my job to be in the vlogs and to be on camera. So me acting this way was the result of you not caring, and you knew the entire time.
So outside of the, like, very funny responses that Beck had, and to the things that Amberlynn was saying, like, I think that that really is the most important takeaway for me, because it really reminds me of things that I already knew, which is that Amberlynn put Beck in a lot of situations that they didn't want to be in and made them feel obligated to do it, either because they were the caretaker for Amberlynn or because Amberlynn had declared that, like, if you quit your job, then your job is to be in videos with me and it's your job to do all of this with me on camera. And so I just think that that's really important because it goes into some of the, like, psychological, like, manipulation that Amberlynn was doing when it comes to Beck's relationship with them. I think that a lot of us all know this now and understand this now from having watched many of Beck's videos and even hearing from other exes here and there. But I just think it's like a good reminder and was my main takeaway from watching Beck's response to Amberlynn. So definitely go watch and enjoy Beck's channel. Also go check out, they've posted a couple videos about ghost stories and things like that I have watched as well and I thought were interesting. If nothing else, like, I love to have some stuff on in the background of people talking about stuff that maybe I'm not particularly interested in, but, like, I love having things like that on in the background when I'm working on other stuff. So go give it a view, even if you're not interested in ghost stories. Maybe it will be some good background noise for while you're working on something else. So that brings me to Amberlynn's members only live stream from this week. And there's really, I mean, she talks about all kinds of things in the live stream, and there's two main things that I want to hone in on, and then maybe I'll briefly discuss, like, the general vibes of the rest of the live stream afterwards. But the first thing that I want to talk about actually goes off of, you know, talking about Beck's response to Amberlynn's alleged last response to Beck, and it's Amberlynn talking about Beck. And maybe some of this will need some background info in case you haven't watched other reaction channels or if you haven't watched all of Beck's videos, but you might need some background info about two things that Beck has shared about on their channel that they had to do with Amberlynn while they were in a relationship. One of these things involves a game called Choosy. And I imagine most of you at this point know Choosy, understand Choosy, get the vibes of Choosy. But basically, it was Amberlynn making her partners, or in this case specifically Beck, but you'll find out that Amberlynn made other partners do it too. Amberlynn would make Beck go and pick between just, like, silly little things like stickers and croc charms and things like that, and pick the best one for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end.
Startling. And one thing that took up a lot of time was this game that she would force me to play called Choosy, where she would take a bunch of, like, thousands of stickers, like she bought bulk stickers, and had me pick between them all the way down until I picked one single sticker to be the best sticker of all. And she made me do this with buttons and earrings, calendar pages. She would buy a bunch of small calendars and tear the pages out and then have me pick between the pictures down to which one I liked the most. And croc charms. She would make me play Choosy between croc charms, and she didn't even own a pair of crocs. She just had thousands of croc charms for no reason. And sometimes, because there were so many, like with stickers and earrings, it would take hours and sometimes even days to completely get down to just one.
The other thing we're also going to talk about is something that I believe Beck referred to as lip picking, but Amberlynn describes as, like, ASMR plucking or something like that. My understanding is basically, like, Amberlynn doesn't, well, the way Amberlynn describes it in this live stream is that she doesn't like a full-on massage, but she enjoys having somebody come and do, like, this all over her body. And Beck had talked about that recently in a video as well.
And another thing that would take up a lot of time is she would set a timer for 45 minutes to an hour usually. And she would have me sit behind her and pretend to pick lint off of her back because she liked the way it felt and sounded because of ASMR. And she would have me do this for so long that my arms and stuff would hurt. And whenever I would want to stop, she would sigh and just be like, well, I'm going to pause the timer. So she would pause the timer for my little break, and then I'd have to immediately go back to it, and she would unpause the timer again. Sometimes I would catch her not unpausing the timer because she would want me to do it for longer.
Almost immediately when this live stream starts, people ask about Choosy, which is not necessarily surprising to me because for about the entire past week on Twitch, every time I would come onto Twitch, people would ask me about Choosy, ask me about my thoughts about Choosy. So if they're over here asking me, a reaction channel, about my thoughts about Choosy, you gotta believe that that people are gonna immediately start asking Amberlynn about Choosy. Now what's interesting is that throughout the live stream, people are actually like criticizing Amberlynn for not responding to every single message, every single chat, every single person there. And she blames that on like, you know, I'm just one person and there's way more of you than there are of me. And like, I can't possibly answer every single thing. And I bring that up because it's like, you know what? Like, I think that's reasonable. I don't think it's unreasonable. You know, when I live stream, there's a 100% chance I'm going to miss chats. I'm not going to read everybody's messages to me because she's right. Like, when I live stream on Twitch, there's usually anywhere between 200 to 300 people watching me, and maybe not all of those people are chatting, but it's a lot of people to keep up with while I'm also trying to talk and make points and things like that. So like, I think it's more than reasonable that she might skip over things. What I find interesting is that she didn't choose to skip over choose? Ooh, maybe I should have used a different word. Maybe I should have chosen a different word. But she didn't choose to skip over the choosy questions. And really, honestly, we only know about choosy because of Beck. So if you make a whole video, you put a whole video out talking about how you will no longer be addressing anything that Beck said. I mean, it's literally at the end of her video, she says, it is no longer like protecting my peace to address the things that Beck said. So if Beck comes out with more stuff, which Beck did come out with the choosy stuff after she made this video saying she would never respond to Beck again. But like, if that's the case, then like, don't respond to the choosy stuff because the only reason we know about choosy is because of Beck, right? But anyways, she claims that this was a bonding experience with 3 different partners that she's had in her life.
Choosy is a game I invented and I play it to this day. It is one of the most calming things. It is just so therapeutic. A lot of people are talking about it because, okay. It started when I was 7 years old because my Uncle Bumpy gave me this like tin can of like rocks. And there was just like the most beautiful rocks I've ever seen. And I just came up with the idea through process of elimination. Like if you guys have ever heard of like that like bracket game, it's very similar to that. So if I'm explaining it weird, but I've been doing it since I was a little girl and I have done it with 3 partners, and it was always like such like a bonding experience because for me, I like to do it alone by myself. I do it literally living by myself. I used to have so many stickers. The last time I did it was probably a few months ago, and for me, it's just like a calming thing.
And she also claims that she never forced anybody to do it, and claims that she won't be talking about her ex, Beck. In this case, she doesn't say Beck's name, but that's who she means, despite almost immediately like bringing up Beck later in the live stream anyways.
I think it's just like people are taking something that like genuinely has been so calming for me, like, and making it into like this weird thing because I thought like I was bonding with an ex and I never forced them to ever do anything with me, let alone choosy. I thought that was us like literally bonding together, and it's just like low-key like has been like the weirdest experience lately. Like,
and again, you know, like she really tries to hone in on like, I didn't force Beck to do this, I didn't force Beck to do anything. And while I was watching that, I did watch that live stream before I watched Beck's video, but while I was watching that, I was like, okay, well maybe that makes sense. Like, you know, she has said that she viewed the relationship differently, they have a different understanding. So like maybe at the time she really didn't know that Beck didn't want to be participating in it. And even if that was the case, right? Like even if Amberlynn was unaware, I think the reality is you can look at these things now. You can look at these things now and realize that Becca said that this wasn't a positive experience for them, that they didn't enjoy it. And you could be like, damn, I'm sorry, I should not have done that to you. And that's all you'd have to say. Like, you don't have to sit here and wax poetic about the ways that this was a comforting thing for you, while somebody is out there telling you now that it was not a comforting thing for them at the time. But then it's like, I think about what Beck said in their video response to Amberlynn's response to them, and think about how, you know, they said, well, I did communicate that I didn't want to be in videos with you, and which obviously this is not the same, like this was never in a video, I don't think. But like, I really feel like it's probably a good possibility that Beck had communicated, like, I don't enjoy doing this, I don't like doing this.
And you know, as I'm editing in clips, at least with like the lip picking, Beck very clearly did say, like, I would get so tired of doing it, my arms would start hurting, and Amberlynn would pause the timer and like make me come back to it later and not always set the timer and things like that. And so it's like, clearly Beck also was just like not about these things, and I just want to reiterate that since I didn't really make it sound like that in my original filming, but it's like clear from Beck's clips that like they did not enjoy this, and it was communicated to Amberlynn.
Like, it's very clear at this point that Amberlynn made it clear to Beck that their job was to show up and be in YouTube videos and to take care of them. And Amberlynn's sitting here talking about how this is like therapeutic and calming and things like that for her. So of course she's going to expect her caretaker, the person who cares for her, to do these things. Like, that is Amberlynn's expectation. That's clearly how she was viewing Beck at the time. That's how Beck felt like they were being treated at the time. And so it's just like one of those things of like, oh my God, Amberlynn, like, you coerced them into doing these things that they didn't enjoy doing. One thing that I also thought was interesting is that Amberlynn was trying to use Feline/wifey/Jade as an example of a partner that loved playing choosy.
Here's a good example. Okay, so me and my ex Feline, here's a really good example. So we were trying to decide what we wanted to eat. Oh my God, this is so funny. And I was like, name some places you'd want to eat from, because we were like trying to decide. She goes, I don't know, maybe Panda. And I was like, we can if that's what you want. And she goes, I'm down for anything. And I'm like, I'm having a hard time deciding, LOL. She goes, choosy ? Oh my God, that's everything.
And even if it is the case that Feline liked playing choosy, that doesn't mean that Beck did. It's interesting that when Amberlynn searched through her phone for examples of people enjoying playing choosy, none of the examples were from Beck. You know, like, interesting, Amberlynn. And yeah, I don't know, just some of the language that Amberlynn used to talk about Beck bringing these things up in a video and saying that it hurts her for them to bring up these things is just kind of like a little bit self-centered and narcissistic, and only really like her trying to think about herself. Because how are you going to say that somebody coming forward about the way that you hurt them hurts you? You were the one that did the original hurting, diva. So yeah, that's just very frustrating that Amberlynn continues to talk about Beck. I actually am very much for the concept of, and I've said this many times, you know, Amberlynn was the one that came to the internet and said, like, I have to protect my peace. I don't feel like any of you will believe me either way. It would probably be easier for me to just say the things that I did do, but like, I think it's something that I should just avoid talking about altogether. I wish she would have stayed there, because I genuinely like do agree with her that like it's probably best for her to just say nothing, but she can't help herself. She really can't. And like, listen, I'm not here to gatekeep what Amberlynn can and can't talk about on the internet. Like, she's obviously welcome to talk about whatever she wants to. It's her channel. She's more than capable of it. I just think using her own points, her own arguments, her own perspective, things that she shared herself on the internet, it doesn't make sense for her to continue to be here, like, yapping about Beck when she says that it's bad for her peace, her mental health, etc. So, like, let it rest, Amberlynn. You found ways to ignore questions about all kinds of other things. You didn't have to answer questions about Beck or Judy. You chose to answer questions about Beck and Judy and lint picking and this, that, the other. And the other thing that I really wanted to talk about is that Amberlynn several times in her members only live stream brought up that she was lawyered up. It initially comes up because somebody in the chat talks about how the channel called The Ankle slanders her.
Sandy, I have a lawyer now, actually. So that's why I'm not speaking about it.
And surprise, despite her saying that she's not going to talk about things a lot in regards to ankle, she really does end up talking about things regarding ankle. In addition to trying to act like a legal expert when it comes to copyright law, fair use, YouTube terms of service, which I do think she sometimes conflates YouTube's terms of service with like copyright law, where really the two things are not necessarily similar. YouTube has some guidelines when it comes to copyright, and to my understanding at least. You know what, I'm not a legal expert, a copyright expert. I have a variety of experiences with channels over time trying to copyright strike my channel, so I'm speaking from those experiences more than anything, not from like a legal expert standing. I think YouTube really truly has like some guidelines on like what can be fair use. They have some guidelines on like what the copyright claim process looks like. That's probably more so their terms of service is like, if somebody has a copyright dispute, here are the things that are going to happen from YouTube's end. But like YouTube ultimately in most cases does not make a decision when it comes to what is or isn't fair use. They leave that all to the legal courts. That's why it's confusing to me sometimes when she talks about like channels violating terms of service versus, oh, they're just infringing on your copyright. Somebody in the chat at one point asked who the biggest spreader of misinformation is, and she mentions that it is the ankle, and she can't wait for it to catch up with him. And eventually people start talking about how people are stream sniping her members only live stream. She thinks that that means that like somebody on YouTube is also live streaming what she's live streaming. And ultimately then people start pointing out like, no girl, they're watching in Discords. Like they are watching your live stream via somebody who has a membership in Discords. And then this is where she really just like fully dives into legal Lynn, to lawyer Lynn. Somebody in the chat, if I recall correctly, said that she was in her Elle Woods era. But girl could never get a 175 on the LSAT, so I'm not sure that she's really in her Elle Woods era at all. And she makes a lot of vague threats about how she could sue people, how she could take channels down, but she's not going to.
I don't think they can repost it on YouTube. No, you can't react to it. You can't do anything like that. Are you going to shut down the Discord server? No. No. Like, I don't think you guys realize this, but there's a few reaction channels that I could have shut down in like literally lickety split like a second, and I don't. I need you guys to realize that like a lot of these people, there's one in particular, actually two in particular, that like they need to be careful with what they're saying. I swear to you, like I don't sue people, but I'm fixing to, by the way. That's like saying piracy is fair use, right? I'm not gonna sue anybody who uses my live stream or anything like that. Like that's just like stupid. I'm not gonna copyright them, anything like that. But it's not allowed. Any judge you put that in front of would be on the side of the creator. Yeah, especially like channels who literally only revolve around my content and reacting to every single video that I put up. Like I would win, point blank period. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put myself in that position. I'm also not going to take away someone's income. I'm genuinely not that person at all. As much as people think that I am, I'm not that person, won't be that person, never will be that person. So. And
also at one point somebody mentions that if the content is transformative, then it doesn't violate copyright. And she goes into this long, like, diatribe about how it can be transformative, but if it's inciting hate and taking away people's incomes, that it is still against terms of service. And that eventually goes into her talking about suing the ankle because she says that he's slandering and inciting violence.
The thing is, if you are inciting hate, if you're taking away the person's like income, like there are people who literally sit there and they're like, I prefer to watch Zachary and Michael because I do not want to give Amberlynn a view. There are so many tiny little things that also go within the violation of copyright. It's not just black and white. That's why literally in the terms of service on YouTube, it says it is based on each situation. Each situation is different. It's not just black and white, like this is how it is. This is exactly how it is. Like a good example is the ankle. If I sued him for what he is doing in his current videos, I would win. Because not only is he reacting to every single video of mine, but inside of it, he is inciting like violence, not physical violence, but he is inciting harassment, and he is absolutely slandering and defaming me based on what he is saying. That like what he, oh God, don't get me started. I'm not going to be talking about it. But I don't have to talk about it with y'all.
So a few things, obviously in that clip, like she references me and she talks about how there are people that exist that say that they are watching my channel so that they don't have to give her a view. She's not wrong about that. There are like a few comments every now and then of people that are saying that. Obviously, that's not my intention. I don't desire for people to not watch Amberlynn's content. And I do understand where she's coming from because in the like pillars of fair use, there are a multitude, there are a number of things that you have to be able to prove in terms of like it being fair use. And one of those like pillars is that like your content is not a replacement for the original content. It's certainly not the only thing or the only thing that decisions are made around. Like the transformative nature of the content is also important. How much of the content you're using is important. There are many other factors that go into it, not just that. But I do understand where she's coming from. And it's also not my intent. Like, it's never been my intent to replace views or people from viewing her channel. And just as many people that are in the comments saying that they, watch me or watch other reaction channels instead of watching her. There are just as many people in my comments, at least, I can't speak to other channels, that say that they watch both channels, that they will sometimes watch me and then go watch hers, or will watch hers and then like think about the things that I'm gonna say or how I'm gonna react to it. I mean, many people reach out to me in DMs and things like that and say like, oh, I can't wait for you to watch this video because they have watched her content and are excited to see what my thoughts are about her latest ramblings. So I don't think, at least when it comes to me, that the case is as black and white as she says it is. And I also want to say that like, the inciting hate part of what she's talking about doesn't have anything to do with fair use. That part needs to be a little bit more clear on her end. I think that is like more so a YouTube terms of service thing, and that's something that she should hone in on if that's what she feels like is happening to her by any particular channel. Like if there are channels that are actually inciting violence or hate towards her, like certainly YouTube terms of service come into play there. I don't actively keep up with the Ankles channel, so when she suggests that he is slandering her and inciting violence and things like that, I really can't speak to that. I really have no idea if he is or isn't doing that. But what I will say about all of these threats to sue and her like talking all of this legal jargon and talking about having a lawyer and this, that, the other, here is that this isn't the first time. And if this is something you really want to pursue, then put up or shut up, diva. Like, at this point, we've been talking about it for ages. Like, you really want to talk a big talk, then do it. Like, also so many times during this live stream, she goes on about like, oh, I would never want to harm somebody's income. I would never want to take a channel down. I would never want to do this, that, the other. Okay, then why are you talking about it then? Like, what's the point? Not that I'm like trying to poke the bear. Not that I want to go to court with Amberlynn Reid. Not that I want to waste my time or resources or energy on being in a legal battle with Amberlynn Reid, but it's just like everything else in her life. Lots of talk about the things she could do, but ultimately no follow through. Ultimately, her never doing anything about it. And I just think it's silly. I really do. Girl, you will never be Elle Woods. You wish you could be Elle Woods, diva. So that's mostly all of my thoughts about her lawyer, about her threatening to sue or suggesting she could sue. It's so silly. But otherwise, I'm trying to think about the other things that she talked about. You know, there was a lot of speculation about her potentially having a new girl in the DMs or texting her, because there was lots of her looking down at her phone and her blushing and giggling and smiling. And that's just been a telltale sign of girlfriends in the past when she's been live streaming. She also claims she's just like not going to talk about her relationships and dating anymore, so we'll see if that actually happens. I think it'll be very hard for her to do when she vlogs about her life, to just like act like that isn't there, and I just also don't think that she has any kind of self-control. So we'll see. We will absolutely see. And then the other thing she talked a lot about was semaglutide, and she kept saying, like, I should have clarified that I'm not necessarily giving up on semaglutide. I'm giving up on the company that was giving me semaglutide. And at one point she also says how her pancreas and gallbladder problems that she's had means that she shouldn't be on semaglutide. But I just think that that's an interesting thing for her to say, because that's the same excuse that she's given even just recently in a vlog. She gave the same excuse for why she couldn't do like a low carb keto style of a diet to help with her lipedema, which was suggested to her by doctors in the past. She said that it would negatively impact her pancreas and gallbladder. So I just think that that's silly. It's silly. She's just making up reasons for stuff. Like, it matters for her to eat in a different way, but it doesn't matter for her to give herself a shot once a week. It really makes no sense to me. But anyways, I hope that these were coherent thoughts and feelings. I really did enjoy Beck's video, so go check it out. They had a lot of zingers, actually. They had a lot of good comebacks for things that Amberlynn said. So make sure to go check out their video if you haven't already. And certainly, I guess if you want to go watch Amberlynn's live stream, then get a membership, I guess, if you want. You're more than welcome to do that too. But thank you so much for watching me today. I really appreciate it. If you're brand new here, consider subscribing down below. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Make sure to leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I love you all so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!